We're recording. So welcome, Debbie.
Thank you.
It's very nice of you to participate in the More Than a Carers project. So thank you for being here. So what's that, sorry?
My pleasure.
Oh, good. And I think with Zoom, I think I might need to not talk while you're talking. I think it cuts out a little bit. So I might just, we'll be careful and slow in our exchanges. Okay. Debbie, first of all, I want to start off. I know that art is a passion of yours, or and that's actually making art or doing art. But I don't know much more than that. What kind of art is it? Tell me about your relationship with art.
How I started. Well, I suppose maybe you could argue that was a start, maybe my caring role or getting into this, and it was because my father had recently passed away. And my mother and I thought, oh my goodness, let's get out of this house. But she only wanted to go on a cruise. My father was merchant seaman and he'd been torpedoed during the war and would not go on a cruise. So she said, we're going on a cruise. And I couldn't think of anything worse. I sail, but I do not cruise. So we went on this cruise and it was about 3 weeks. And I thought, oh God. But they did offer an art class in the afternoon. And I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to do my art. I used to love it at school. And I thought, I've always decided I was going to do this later on in my life. So this was it. So I was presented with a little box of 8 watercolors and a piece of paper and a fellow cruiser who quite liked a cocktail beforehand. And we duly decided we would take art and we thoroughly enjoyed it. So we did this art class for 3 weeks. And when I came back, I thought, you know what, one of these days I'm going to take this back on. However, life kind of goes on and changed in one thing and the next. And it wasn't really until my mother started to deteriorate that little bit more when my other interests of, skiing and hill walking, sailing got kind of curtailed a bit. And I thought, right, let's see what's out there. And there was an art class, and it was a local art class to start off with. And then that closed down. And I had done 2 masters at Strathclyde, and I knew about their Centre for Lifelong Learning. And they had an array of art, all introductions and beginners. And I thought, that's for me. So Julie went along, and the first one was botanical drawing. And it was absolutely fabulous. It was a young Chinese girl, and she offered it actually in the Botanic Gardens in Glasgow. And there was classical music. You went and picked your own plant, and oh, it was fabulous, so relaxing. But unfortunately, my mother had a small incident, and I had to give that up. So that was that term. But I decided I'm going to keep this up. So I kept on going. The next thing was acrylics and drawing, and then we really start coming then to maybe a bit of the COVID starting coming in and trying to have time to do more caring, and then taking all this paint and all this water and everything else. I thought, no, I don't have time for that. What else can I do? And I thought, portraiture. I'm going to go back to drawing, which is actually one of my favorites. And all that needs is a pencil, a rubber, and a piece of paper. And I just love it. And that is when I need to get away, I can come into any room or outside with a pencil, paper, and rubber, and I can draw. But more than anything, this year, it's been portraiture. And I just love looking at the blank paper and starting to see the face evolve, and starting to think what's behind that face, and then see that just one line will change an expression, or one line will change the whole face. And you think we all have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and yet from that you can have such an array of faces. So I just love it. And I'm not saying I'm not good at it, but I can go in and I can just completely forget about everything else. And that is really why I like, and it's the detail of it and the simplicity in some respects of it and the observation. So that is why I have now come back. So to a certain extent, being a carer has pushed me into something more perhaps sedentary than I would normally gravitate to. But I'd never give it up. And wherever I go, there's pencil, paper, and a bit of paper and a rubber. I'd have to say I have to take an eraser with me, and that's it. So that's how my art came. That's how my art came about.
That's great. And it's such a portable escape. You know, that's one of the a major gift, I imagine. As you say, you can take the eraser first, always pack that, the paper and the pencil, and then you can just transport yourself into a different sort of mind set, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a martini hobby. Anytime, any place, anywhere. That's it. You know, you can just do it, and that's what I love. I'm not very good at saying the girl that runs the art class. Let's do more exhibiting. One of these days, I'm going to actually finish something to what I think is finished. But however, that's me. But I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
And the people that go there are of all levels. Some are exceptional. Some are really quite professional. Others are beginners. And it's just great, very supportive and fun. I think that's the other thing. But the main focus for me is I can just come into any room and close that door, and for an hour I can completely forget everything and anything that's going around me, and that's been great.
Yeah.
So
and so you can do it in your own time, but you also have you do a class every Wednesday through Zoom at the moment. Is that?
That's right. Oh, yes. And that's been interesting. It's from a social aspect. At Strathclyde, you knew quite a few people. You don't exactly communicate that much, but we will have a bit of a laugh. And when it came down to Zoom, it was quite good because we already knew each other. And then another class started, and we didn't know anybody. There was two of us who knew each other, and that was it. And that's where you think the social interaction with Zoom actually is a bit more problematic. And it was because it was, I suppose it was paid for. It was only for an hour and a half. There was no chat room. So after that, after your hour and a half, that's it. So nobody goes, how did you get on? Did you like that? What was that model like? So all of these things. So you miss part of that. But can I say it was an absolute savior? Because other than that, I think during COVID, and I think just being a carer, if you don't have things timetabled, it starts encroaching in your time, and you put it off and you put it off. And that's why I do classes, because I can say, that is mine. I'm not that self-disciplined to say, I'll do it. Mine's more mañana, or there's something else more important. Whereas if it's timetabled, that I can say that is fine. So Zoom was great for me. And it was interesting. It kept a lot of people going, I think, during areas where some people found it very boring. I found it very exhausting, and still do until my carers come back, which I can't wait for. But it's certainly been it's been very interesting how it has evolved and how people have accepted it. And to a certain extent, it's been a lifeline to a lot of people of just being able to maintain their hobbies. So that was me. So I start my art class tomorrow, back actually physically locally, and that we're all looking forward to that. Zoom was fine, but it's good to be back.
Oh, so you're having you're going to still do Strathclyde by Zoom, and then you've got a local art group that you're going to reconnect with in person. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's kind of balancing up.
And I'm curious about, what you said about, like having things scheduled in the timetable. That's quite important for you? That was kind of a discovery for you as a carer, that you realized that
as a carer, I was a lecturer, so I was used to kind of being timetabled, but I kind of like knowing. But when I gave up work, and I found in caring, it just could go on and on and on, and there was other demands, and you weren't qualified for them. You didn't know if you were doing them right. You didn't know whether you were doing them wrong. Things were kept on growing and growing and growing. And more than a carer meant, not only was I whatever caring is, and nursing, and going to doctors, and taking to Vitality, and getting up and down, and all of these other things. And my whole day was taken up by, and I think we said this job that I didn't apply for, that I just emerged into, I evolved into it. And you don't really know who you are until somebody says, oh, you're the main carer. And you think, you know, guess I am. I guess I am, because it's only me and my mother. And I guess I'm the other carer. And I think we said is I went in and thought, what's happening? Because I was finding it very difficult. It's a new role for me. There was things, and it happens gradually. All of a sudden, it was a case of I had to do this, and the mobility was going down. And do you push somebody? Do you not push somebody? Or what do you do? And do I have equipment? And it was a complete fog. And then I looked in to see what a carer is, and I jotted it down, and I thought, okay, respectful, empathetic, reliable, patient, sunny, practical, observant, caring, experienced, and qualified. And went, oh, where do I fit in with this? And I certainly couldn't do all of them at the one time, 24/7. And it became very stressful because my mother and I had a very good relationship. She was very independent, so was I, but we kind of rubbed along fine. And it became, there was a level of anxiety. Was I doing this right? Where do I go to? And somehow or other, I ended up finding out about the carers. And that kind of takes you out of this fog, because you're trying to do 24/7 stuff. You're getting this guilt coming on. All your hobbies, I mean, all the hill walking, the skiing, the sailing, the theater, the cinemas, going out for a gin and tonic, all of that was kind of all of a sudden went. I thought, no, we can't do this. And
so sorry, when you say the carers, you mean the carers centre, the East Riding?
The carers centre. And I went down there, and they were a lifeline, because I was really worried about losing a relationship that was really a very good relationship. And they were great. They sat down. They were empathetic. They understood. They had all of this knowledge. They had direction. And I came out from there going, okay, now I know where to start going, because you just haven't got a clue. You're sucked into this vortex of bureaucracy, of not knowing what happens. So anyway, so that was it. So the carers came to my rescue. And then you start getting involved with social work and OTs and physios and all the rest of it. And you try and keep what did I say, empathetic, sunny, practical, and everything else going on. But the Carey Centre also provided the knowledge and how to cope. And they ran things like, what is dementia? What are you dealing with? How do you deal with it? How do you deal with your own stress? How do you walk away for a while and not feel this guilt? And that made me think, right, step back. And I suppose what I'm coming to is that's when I decided I've got my personal timetable coming up right now. So we did get private carers coming in. And when they come in, I go out. And that's my mother's time with outside people. And they are sunny and practical and lovely people. Great. And that gives me time now to do all the other things that I used to do. And I think that's how you can kind of evolve into this. But I'm more than a carer. I am not the main carer. I'm the daughter. I'm a bit of a caring process. I would say more of a process, but I am me in my own right. And I think as time has gone down, because every time you realize being a carer, it ain't going to get better. And I think you have to be quite realistic about this. Things ain't going to get better, and they're not going to really get better for you either, and it's going to be sort of sad, it's going to be emotional. But when the caring stops, I've seen other people and I thought, no, you have to keep going. And that's all there is to, and that's why I think it's so important to be more than the carer. You have to hold on to your identity, to a level of personality, and find your whatever hobby, whatever interest that takes your fancy is to do, or even just try it. There's so many things out there. Just try. And a Centre for Lifelong Learning was another, was also very good. It gave huge amounts of programs that you can go into. Matter of fact, too many, you could quite happily try more than just a Harvard. So that's really, in my respect, where I work from a timetable, because other than that, things can encroach far too much on your time.
Yes. And when it encroaches on your time and it becomes all consuming, that's when you can sort of lose that sense of self, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah. And as I say, this always make sure that you don't end up having this feeling of resentment. I think I said this ages ago, that there was this, you never want to have whoever you're caring for resent you, or you resent them. And as soon as you start feeling that, that's always my warning point. When I start feeling niggled and I think, right, okay, we have to review, stand back, what can we do? And 9 times out of 10, it's most probably you have to give up a wee bit. And sometimes I can feel a bit guilty that I should be doing more. But then it comes down, and that was the other thing I was always told, maintain the time that you have as quality time, and make sure that is good, because that's what you're going to look back on. So that's how, if I need more time for myself and have to bring on other people, I think, well, our time at least is good, and there's no resentment on either part. But then I'm very, very lucky with my network.
When you say network, you mean of friends and mothers' friends, or
mothers' friends? Yes, I mean, that's the other thing. Carer, entertainer. I mean, this is pre-COVID. Her friends, I mean, they're all in their 90s. They're all very interesting people. Would come in. I organize the gin and tonics, pick them up. They come and have their cocktail hour, and then everybody goes back. And that again is quite good, because they can relate. And I remember my old aunt, she said the one thing about growing old, because she lived to 101, was she said, nobody knows what it was like at your time. And she said, I can't really reflect and reminisce. And I think that's what's good about saying, and a lot of them are just women all by themselves. And it's a case that everybody can get together and just have, and luckily they all like gin, so it's easy. and it's sociable, and that's it. It's an hour and a half. And but this is a part of the COVID thing again, is that network has kind of had to go for a while, and you just don't know how or when you can start going back to it. But it was something that everybody looked forward to.
Was that at the end of the week, or was it
a Friday, 4 o'clock, 4 to 5 cocktail hour.
Did you say the Golden Girls hour?
Yes, that was it, Golden Girls. And it worked well. And we've also gone to Palea Pine, a Pint, which is in Oranmore, and that's just 1 hour lunchtime play. And we've always gone, and that's that. My mother, I still take my mother and my friends. We tend to go as a group, and that's great. And she always gets made a fuss of, because we've been going there for so long. And again, it keeps her hold in the outside world and away from 4 walls. I'm not saying she has a pint anymore, but she has
a play and a pie.
Maybe a glass of wine, but we won't go into that.
and I guess it's interesting too, that because you manage to schedule your time and give yourself time, that you can then enjoy the Golden Girls hour with your mum and her friends, and enjoy taking your mum to a play and a pie and a pint, whichever order. I can never remember which order it goes in, but there's something about having the separate activities helps you enjoy being at home with her and doing stuff with her. It kind of keeps things in balance.
Oh yeah, gives you a point for discussion, and because other than that, 24/7 living with somebody, especially if you're not going out to work, or you're just always there, that you do need something outside to discuss, and another interest. and that's the only thing for older people that you worry about with COVID. It's the isolation, and with them, especially when there's any hearing impairment, and when you're in the 90s, I think there's quite a bit of that, is that people can't hear each other, and people stop phoning because they can't hear. And I think that is a major issue for for my mother anyway. Can't speak for others, but certainly for her.
So yeah, so there's sort of social activity, there's art for you, and I know we have a dog that's sitting quietly in that room there with you, but and the dog is quite an important part of your kind of own, you know, personal time ritual.
Oh yeah, she's another timetable. So she's the early morning. She's the early morning. Get out, usually about 7 o'clock. Clear the head, and then go right. So we're out. We do about 3 miles. We come back, and then either the carers are in and they're sorting out my mother. And then, say for example, on a Monday it's Pilates, and that's strict. And then on a Tuesday I do my art. On a Wednesday, it's lady skiing. So I go with my friend down to the dry ski slope or the inside ski slope. And then on a Thursday, it's play a pint of pint. On a Friday, tends to be a bit sort of, they're variable. And Saturday, Sunday with the dog is agility. She needs to go to her agility classes. She's too clever otherwise. I've got to tire her out. But again, with the dog, it makes sure that you're on a timetable again. It makes sure that you have to go out and get fresh air, because I'm not a house person, and I need out. And she is love her dearly, and I would go out anyway, but I always have to say, look, I must go. If there's any arguing or anything and you have to walk away, the dog's here, I have to take the dog. That's it. So no, so all in all, it's you have to make, I think, your days to suit yourself, but you do have to eventually stand back and say you can't be this fabulous 24/7 carer, and there has to be a level of selfishness, because other than that, I think there's this sort of resentment comes in, and call it selfishness, call it self-preservation, call it what you like, but to me, that's what you have to do. Whether you just want to go and knit a bobble hat in your bedroom, you just walk away someplace and get some time.
I definitely like your phrase self-preservation. I think that's probably key when you are having to give a lot of your life to someone who so it changes the relationship, and you're having to deal with them in a different way. That it's important to find your routine, to find your moments to be you, and just to escape from it all, to keep the balance, and as you say, keep the joy of the relationship there, and keep resentment away. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you sound very wise around the whole process, and I guess it was an organic kind of wisdom that came to you as you were going through the process. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, I think so. I think, as I say, it kind of just evolved. My mother has a cerebral vascular disease, so you're not really kind of looking for it, and you just know things are slowing down and things are changing slightly, and then just all of a sudden, really, before you know where you are, you're doing more and more and less, and you just know that things aren't working out too well, and you really need help. So first, obviously, it was herself that got the help. But from a carer's point of view, it's very, very difficult. And this is where the carer centre was so good. You can't phone up a doctor's reception who always goes, oh yes, and what's the matter? And you can't say, well, I'm feeling a bit fed up. I've got kind of high anxiety levels. I'm a bit tired. I'm getting a bit aggravated every now and again. And it's I think something's physical, and you don't really want to say too much, and whereas you can go outward to the carer centre, and I just remember walking in and having a really friendly face and a cup of coffee, and come and sit down and let's talk about it. And really at that stage it was great. The sort of all the medical and all the rest of it it was just knowing, and it's to me, as I say, and I still go there when I kind of go, because everything is kind of, as I say, it's incremental, and you know you're going to have to face the next step down and the next step down, and every time you do that, you have to make another adjustment. And I think the worst thing, from my point of view, is letting go, and you kind of have to let go of that bit of the person again, and that's the saddest bit. And it's then trying to push and knowing how much to push and when to say, you know, hey, this ain't working, just leave her be. But my mother doesn't like exercise. She'd been told to do exercise, so she has to do. So I'm the physiotherapist as well, and says you have to do it. But it's that balance of going, right, step back again that little bit, but you don't want to let go. You don't want to let go of that vibrant person that you used to laugh and joke with and go out with. And I think that's the most difficult part of being a carer, is letting go and accepting how this is just natural progression, really, but you just don't want to do it. And it's how that can manifest itself is perhaps difficult.
And yeah, so we actually are running out of time. So to say, I think, you know, just ending on that note, you know, you letting go of, you know, aspects of your mother and the changing, you know, changes, the process of change. And there's something, I guess, just bringing it back to the art, that going back for you to the art is kind of maybe even a way of processing the letting go. It's a chance to kind of give your brain a different way of being that kind of keeps you in balance.
It takes me completely away from it. And I suppose one of my projects was sort of the process of aging, and it was starting off with the baby shoes, and then the trainers, the teenage trainers, and then the fancy disco shoes, and then the old Velcro slippers, which you'll never go into, by the way, but the old Velcro slippers. And you think, you know what? It's changing. We all have to let go of the stiletto heels, you know. The Louboutins can no longer be there. So, and you just kind of start accepting it. But that I would say that's the biggest challenge. Accepting change, is slow change that it is.
Yeah, and having you know, art and other hobbies helps you kind of just work through that process somehow in a way that it's useful.
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody says, when are you going to do your mother? And I thought, my mother will hit me if I have to do so I haven't done that yet. Maybe think about that, but not at the moment.
Well, Debbie, it's been fabulous talking to you. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate hearing your story.
You're very welcome, Stephanie. Hope it helps somebody out there.
I'm sure it will.
Thank you very much.